It's 4 on ABC Radio Perth, and it probably comes as no surprise, sadly, to hear that more than 70% of you say you've been the victim of some form of online trolling. Threats of violence, name-calling, being sent inappropriate images, being tracked, bullied, or even hassled. Maybe even doxed. That's where trolls publish your private contact information so you can be tracked down and hassled offline. So, how do you deal with it? Does reporting them work? I'm really keen to hear from you about the techniques you use. You can give me a call on 1300 222 720 or send a text on 0437 922 720. Paul Litherland is a former Western Australian of the Year and the founder of Surf Online Safe. He joins me now. Welcome to Drive, Paul.
Hi, Joe. Hope you're well.
I am. Does it surprise you in any way to hear that 7 out of 10 Aussies have been the victim of online abuse or trolling?
No, not at all. And I think as we all start really continuing to push to the online world in so many different environments, it's so much of what we do that's probably going to continue to increase. So it's not a surprise, but it's also concerning to see so many people going through it.
You've been working in this space, particularly educating young people and their parents for a long time. Do you think it's gotten worse?
I think it's getting to a peak now. For 14 years working at the sort of the coalface of online crime, I have seen it getting progressively worse, but I'm also starting to see the flip side of that, and the fact that we're starting to see some good response to how we address online harms and what we can do to sort of minimise the impact as well. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, unfortunately.
Now, you do lots of educating in schools, as I just said, both with kids and parents. If you are listening and you have had any issues with trolling perhaps yourself, or you've noticed something going on with your kids, Paul's really happy to take your calls, 1300 222 720, or you can send a question via text 0437 922 720. Paul, do you think COVID was a real flashpoint for bad behaviour
100%, Joe. I think because so many of us were stuck online at home, and our in life or real world conversation was sort of so disjointed. So we did push to online environments. COVID was a very controversial subject as well. So people were venting and there was a lot of stress. So I think that really evolved, and we're probably starting to see the tail end of that now in regards to people finally starting to settle in regards to that. So yeah, it definitely had an impact.
I'm always fascinated by people who will fire something off from a keyboard but would never say it to someone's face. And what leads to that behaviour?
It's the anonymity of the internet, and the vast majority of trolls, especially those who target quite offensively, they're all fake accounts anyway. So one of my biggest frustrations as an educator and working in this field especially, and my biggest frustration is social media and the fact that anyone can create an account. It'll take you 4 minutes, 7 minutes to a degree to create an account, and you can just smash away without any real concern as to the feelings of the person you're targeting. So that in itself, I think, is a catalyst for why so many people go through these online harms, and we need to clean that up. And it's rare that you'll have someone on an identifiable account say something so horrible, because they know they're going to get called out for that behaviour. So this is where that needs to change significantly, I think.
It can also really hurt business if people put negative, I mean, you know, it's fine to rate and to make comments, but there have been instances, we've heard stories where people have said something that just simply wasn't true.
Yeah, and I've had a number of those. I was contacted last year by a young lady who was actually one of my former students, who was running her own nail salon and eyelashes and all that sort of stuff. And one of her competitors was actually creating 17 fake accounts over a series of Facebook accounts, Instagram posts and all that sort of stuff, and just absolutely abusing this business online and putting in fake reviews and stuff. So again, that ability and ease to do that it's just so hard to control. And I have so much empathy for people who go through it, because their ability to sort of pull away from those harms is very difficult. I was just speaking to the students at Mercedes College this morning, and one of the things I say to the senior kids is, you won't realise how poorly you are protected on the internet until something goes wrong. And this is where it's so difficult for people to sort of get help, because the networks just aren't really designed to be protective, unfortunately.
It's 16 past 4 on ABC Radio Perth. Sophie sent through a text on 0437 922 720. She says life's too short to bother with social media. Yeah, I can see your point, Sophie, but so many people do use it, as we were just talking about, for business and things like that. Someone else agrees social media is not compulsory. Don't send the message. So what is the advice, Paul Litherland? Do you engage with trolls? Do you block them? Do you mute them? What are the options?
Okay, and Sophie's right to a degree. I mean, it's the curse of the world, social media, and honestly, if it wasn't around, I'd be out of a job, and I wouldn't mind that. But this is our world now, so I think to a degree we need to accept that. But for me, non-engagement is so important. We've got to remember the vast majority of our trolls are going to jump online for one specific purpose: is to get a bite. Is to get a reaction. So if we can really take that away, the vast majority of attacks will minimise, okay, and they'll move on to better targets or other targets as such. So it's so important to not engage, to take on and really focus on the fact that this person is here just to cause me harm or to cause me grief. So to get a good defence network, a good peer network to support you as well is so important online.
I'm talking to Paul Litherland, the founder of Surf Online Safe, former West Australian of the Year. The latest stats from the e-Safety Commissioner reveal 1 in 6 people admitted to doing something negative online. I'm surprised that people are admitting to do that. And they say that they're doing it to have fun. I still really don't understand.
And this is where, with those listeners who are probably over 30 or in their 40s, it's a different world. It's such a different world. So, but when we say people don't mean to cause this harm, a lot of the time we make simple throwaway comments where, Joe, you and I could have said that in the schoolyard and it would have never gone further. It would have stayed, oh, I hate this person or that person sucks or whatever. It stays in the schoolyard. So these simple throwaway comments, which may have seemed at the time petty or just simple, can be exacerbated or can be re-echoed because of the internet. So social networking, again, gives that capability. So when people say, oh, I've said an online harm that I didn't really mean, it's because that content, that sentence may have been blown out of proportion or gone so much further than they thought it ever would.
Dave on the text 0437 922 720 says, how about trolls from foreign countries that weaponise propaganda and political agendas? It's so widespread.
Yeah, and this is one of the biggest things I'm dealing with at the moment. So many influencers online who push their own agenda, and TikTok in particular is quite rampant for that. So much is being pushed through a particular algorithm or certain software approaches where people think that's a norm or people think that's a desirable effect. So trying to get the message across to people, especially to teens, that that's not the norm is important. And I'm all for freedom of speech. Of course I am. I'm frustrated with Twitter because that's going to be lowering the standards. And yes, people should still be able to say what they want to say, by all means. But you shouldn't be able to say stuff at the harm or damage of someone else. Just because it's right to say, just because you had the right to say it doesn't mean you should say it or it's right to say. So we need to really emphasise on that point.
Paul, this person asks, do social media companies have a responsibility to manage trolls? Do you think linking an account to a document like your driver's licence would help deal with the anonymity?
I think myself personally, handing that data or information over to the networks themselves, I think is fraught with danger or risk, because I wouldn't want Facebook or Meta owning my personal data. What I'd love to see, and it's a great point by your listener, is I'd love to see an intermediary. Wouldn't it be great to go, right, I'm going to go to a website which is run independently of social networking, give them my driver's license details, give them my passport, tick those boxes. So if I then go to join a social networking app, let's say I've got a 5-point credit rating. So I can join that app because I've got that rating because some organisation has my data. Okay, not to hand it over to the people who are making money out of us and them have that control. So this is where we need that middle ground somewhere.
21 past 4 on ABC Radio Perth. I'm talking to Paul Litherland, the founder of Surf Online Safe. Some new data out from the e-Safety Commissioner today that shows 7 out of 10 of you have been the victim of some form of online trolling. They profiled these people, and most commonly a troll is a young bloke under 40 living in the city who targets someone close to them, a current or former partner, a family member or friend. Does that surprise you?
Again, not really. I mean, the internet has given us constant sort of ability to interact in ways that we might not do in the real world, and we get caught up in a moment. But more importantly, I think, Joe, is when someone says something to you in person, in face to face, you can pick up on body language. You can pick up on how that address was intended. Does that make sense? Whereas in a sentence on a screen, you might not pick up that intention, that initial intention. If a parent comes in and they're in a bad mood and they say to their kid, clean your bedroom, the kid will get annoyed with that. Oh, why are you angry with me? But if you come in and happy and go, hey mate, why are you there? Can you just clean up your bedroom a little bit? So how that is interpreted is so important. Whereas again, the internet just doesn't give that opportunity.
That's some good parenting advice. I'll remember to always ask my kids with a smile on my face rather than screaming at them. Brett says, I don't partake in so-called social media. Our national legislation is non-existent. Paul, if trolls are likely people we already know, how does that change the way we deal with them in person?
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's, again, it can impact on our relationships, and this is where so many people can be burnt by online responses, even something as in regards to employment. Someone could say something online that might jeopardise their employment or go against the principles of their business. So simple, the impact so much can have on how we act online is constant with us now, and this is where it's hard for parents, older parents especially, to get a head around that, because we never had it. That simple comment can cause us so much grief. It can go viral. We never had that as kids.
Just finally, Paul, how do people report trolls? What options are there?
But I'm glad you asked that, Joe. And one of the things I heard you speak of earlier in regards to reporting is you mentioned, people make reports and nothing's happened. Quite often, a lot of the reason why nothing happens when you make a report is because all the social networking apps will have software-based reporting mechanisms. So basically, you're getting looked at by a robot. All right. So if a person is using a certain language style, instead of saying sex, if they're being groomed, someone says segs, S-E-G-G-S, or HU, H8, that's not going to get picked up by the software. So what we need to do, and it's really an important message to your listeners, is to don't just report once, don't just report twice, smash the offending account, report it 25 times. Okay, because what happens then is the vast majority of the networks will have a gateway or a flag, so that if you get 25 reports, as an example, in a 24-hour period on a particular offending account, it'll go past the software and finally get looked at by a real physical moderator. Now, that might still take a while to get to it, but at least someone's physically looking at it. So I really implore to all of my audiences and your listeners is don't just sit at 2 reports and go, hopefully something will happen, because I'm sorry, guys, it won't. Smash it. Report. Contact 10 of your mates. Get them to report it 5 times as well. It's a great way to get over the system, because...
But it's such a shame that the onus is
100%.
on us to have to take those
This is my
lengths.
battle, because this is... It's not right. We're having to look after ourselves so often. But in reality, and I've said it here in this studio a number of times, to yourself, to Christine, and to Jeffrey, hey mate, volume. 350 million stories go into Instagram per day.
Paul says on the text line 0437 922 720, I run a few groups on Facebook, and by far the majority of members are well behaved.
100%.
The odd idiots are quickly weeded out, but the clowns that run Facebook do stupid things such as give members the option of posting comments anonymously. And this great idea was introduced overnight. So he has to go into his group settings and turn off that feature. It's all about getting as much traffic as possible.
Yeah, and this is where, again, so often the onus is being pushed to us as users. Now, I don't disagree with that, but we all also need a hand. And it's great that the work Julian Mangran and the eSafety Commission are doing are amazing, because we're pushing the onus back to the networks to be more responsible, okay? And we need to continue to push that culture, because this is no longer just our job. This is no longer just a parent's job. Social media has been around for a long time now. You can't build a physical playground. I built a gazebo next to my pool a couple of years ago, and the amount of stuff I had to jump through bloody council to get that thing up. But now you can create an online world. See you later. Your problem as a user. That needs to change, and that's what myself and many other educators are trying to do.
Paul, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Joe.
Paul Litherland, founder of Surf Online Safe there. And thanks for your text, Frank, who says, suggesting people keep off social media as a solution is victim blaming. We should be able to socialise online in some sort of safety. Absolutely agree, Frank. And it's a shame that people behave the way they do.